Freddie Flintoff breaks silence after Top Gear crash that almost ended everything. It all started as a typical Top Gear shoot. Freddie Flintoff, a former cricketer, had just joined the team, and was still proving his mettle and getting along well with his two co-presenters, Chris Harris and Paddy McGuinness. Together, the three formed a team that was well liked by the audience, but life doesn't always go as planned. During a special racing challenge, a serious accident occurred, leaving Freddie Flintoff facing one of the biggest challenges of his life, and his life would never be the same again. That day, when Freddie climbed into the special sports car, everything seemed perfect. He felt confident, ready for a new challenge. No one could have predicted that this race would turn into a terrible moment. At high speed, Freddie's car lost control when entering a sharp corner. Despite doing everything they could to keep the car stable, the violent impact with the guardrail caused the car to flip over. The loud crash caused everyone present to panic. Chris Harris, who was watching from a hidden corner, immediately rushed over when he saw the deformed car. "Freddie!" he cried out, worry written all over his face. When the rescue team arrived and pulled Freddie out of the car, everyone was relieved to see that he was still breathing, despite his serious injuries. Freddie was rushed to the hospital immediately. His injuries were serious, but not life-threatening. However, the violent impact had caused him to break several bones and suffer a head injury. These injuries not only affected his body but also his mind. This was the first time Freddie truly felt the fragility of life. Chris Harris, who had always been by Freddie's side, witnessed the whole scene. He was very worried when he saw his friend being taken away in such a state. Although he knew that accidents could happen in his line of work, when his own best friend was the victim, everything seemed to become too much to bear. Chris was very scared. In a later interview, he could not hide his tension. "At that time, I couldn't think of anything other than whether Freddie was okay. What I saw was not just an accident but a real shock. It was the first time I really realized that life can change in the blink of an eye." After the accident, Freddie Flintoff withdrew from the spotlight. He did not want to talk about the accident for many months. Those around him, especially his colleagues on Top Gear, were worried and understood that this was an extremely difficult time for him. Physical wounds may heal, but mental wounds are harder to heal. Freddie, who was known for his humor and optimism, now felt alone and unsure of what to do with this sudden change in his life. "Sometimes, I feel like I am living in a nightmare. I used to think I could overcome any challenge, but this accident made me understand that things don't always go as expected," Freddie shared in a later interview. Although Freddie didn't say anything about the accident, Chris Harris was the one who was most worried. He knew that Freddie was facing a huge internal battle, not just the physical wounds, but the psychological wounds from that terrible event. As a close friend, Chris felt he needed to do something to help Freddie through this difficult time. Chris took the initiative to reach out to Freddie, but he knew that he couldn't force Freddie to talk if he wasn't ready. "I knew Freddie wouldn't say anything right away, but I also knew that someday, he would need to say it. And I would be here, always," Chris shared. On a rainy afternoon, when Chris visited Freddie at his home, they just sat in silence. No words were spoken, just the sound of rain falling on the window. Yet in that silence, Freddie felt the empathy and support of his friend. And even though he said nothing, Chris knew he had done something important. After a long period of silence, Freddie began to feel the need to confront what had happened. He could no longer live in darkness and loneliness. One morning, as the sun rose, Freddie decided he had to do something. He called Chris Harris and asked him to go back to the racetrack where the accident had occurred. It was not an easy decision. For Freddie, it was a confrontation with the greatest fear of his life. "When you are faced with a fear, you have two choices," Freddie said in a conversation with Chris. "You can run away from it, or you can face it. And I can't run away from it." When they arrived at the racetrack, Freddie could feel the tension in the air. He got into the sports car he had been driving in the accident. This time, he didn't feel the same excitement as before. Instead, he felt a deep calmness in his soul. A week later, Freddie Flintoff decided to break his silence and share about the accident in an official interview. What he said made not only fans but also his colleagues in Top Gear rethink about the values that are truly important in life. Freddie shared, "It was a big shock to me. I used to think that I could overcome any challenge, but this accident made me understand that life is unpredictable. I cannot imagine what it would be like without the support of friends and family. And I want to thank everyone who has been with me during this time." With his sincere sharing, Freddie was able to relieve some of his pain and anxiety. He no longer felt alone in his battle with himself. He realized that sometimes, strength is not about hiding the pain but about daring to face it. Freddie Flintoff has overcome the biggest challenge of his life, and now he is back on Top Gear. But he is no longer the man who lives for speed and challenge. He has changed, become a more mature, stronger man. And most importantly, he is no longer on this journey alone. Chris Harris and Patty McGuinness welcome Freddie back with a warm welcome. The three of them continue to create new adventures, but this time, with a new spirit. A spirit that is not only about dangerous challenges, but also about cherishing life and friendship. Ultimately, Freddie Flintoff's story is not just about a racetrack accident, but a journey through life's greatest challenges. Through it, he found himself again, and more than that, he found a new faith in life and his companions.